All right, our top focus. In an unprecedented move, the United States and its NATO allies have decided to expel Russian diplomats from their countries. The United States and 17 other countries have decided to expel scores of Russian diplomats. This is in response to the alleged nerve agent attack in the United Kingdom. The United States has ordered the expulsion of 60 diplomats. Germany, Canada, France and Poland have expelled 4 diplomats each, claiming they were operating as spies. Lithuania will expel 3 Russian diplomats and ban the entry of 44 Russians. Ukraine will ask 13 Russian diplomats to leave the country. Italy has asked 2 Russian diplomats to leave as well. The US government says that out of the 60 expelled, 12 have been identified as intelligence officers who were stationed at the United Nations in New York. The Trump administration has also ordered Moscow to shut their consulate in Seattle because of its proximity to a US naval base. The expelled diplomats have been given 7 days to leave. This is the toughest diplomatic retaliation by a US government since 1986, when the then President Ronald Reagan ordered the expulsion of 55 Russian diplomats from the country. The UK has expectedly welcomed the move.
My discussions with President Macron and Chancellor Merkel, as well as other leaders, we agreed on the importance of sending a strong European message in response to Russia's actions, not just out of solidarity with the UK, but recognising the threat posed to the national security of all EU countries. So the Council agreed immediate actions, including withdrawing the EU's ambassador from Moscow. And today, 18 countries have announced their intention to expel more than 100 Russian intelligence officers from their countries. This includes 15 EU member states, as well as the United States, Canada and the Ukraine. And this is the largest collective expulsion of Russian intelligence officers in history. I have found great solidarity from our friends and partners in the EU, North America, NATO and beyond over the past 3 weeks, as we have confronted the aftermath of the Salisbury incident. And together we have sent a message that we will not tolerate Russia's continued attempts to flout international law and undermine our values.
Russia has hit back at the US and the EU action. It has described it as provocative. The Russian envoy to the US has said that Washington understands nothing but force. All right, for more on this big developing story, I'm joined by Mandy Clark, who's London's bureau chief of WION. Mandy, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. What's the latest that you're hearing from 10 Downing Street?
Well, nothing but support for the decision. And really, what's important to note about this strategic move is that it was very much a security measure that not only just in support of the UK, of course, that's how the UK sees it, but really it's a wider security concern. And in the past, of course, Russia had gotten away with it with the Litvinenko case, where he was murdered in 2006 with plutonium-210. And it was found that Russia was behind it, but there was no major fallout like there is this time. This time it was very coordinated. Countries worked together to make this announcement, to make it have great impact. And it was very much a NATO alliance countries. So it was not only a security but military decision to kick out what they call spies out of their country. Of course, Russia is quite angry about it. I don't believe they saw it coming, and they feel that they are under attack incorrectly. And of course, they have been independent observers, chemical weapons, nerve agent experts that have come to examine the samples that were taken, but they still haven't had their results back, and that was only expected within 2 weeks or a week and a half now. So it seems like the decision has been made without the absolute confirmation was Russia, but there, of course, is other intelligence that the UK and its allies are not necessarily sharing with the public that made them certain Russia has been behind this attack.
Right. Mandy, one interesting development that's taken place is that ever since this controversy broke out, Russia has been asserting that let us also be a part of this investigation. At least let us prove that we were not behind this spy attack. But the UK has been persistent and saying that this investigation, Russia's hand is clear in this attack. And if you have more details, what triggered the US response? Because ever since the controversy broke out, countries like France, Germany and other European countries were behind the UK. But US has suddenly taken this decision. So what was the trigger?
We don't really know what was the trigger. In all likelihood, it was more intelligence. It could have been pressure from the allies, those NATO forces. But in the past, we haven't seen President Trump really respond to allied pressure. So it could have just been simply they had enough evidence that really put Russia squarely to blame. If that is the case, I think every ally would be concerned. If they could do it in the UK, they can do it on our soil, put our own people in jeopardy. And that is the biggest. So it's not just to show support to the UK, it's also to protect their own people, their own areas, away from spying and possibly nerve agents on the streets of the US or France or Germany. And so it's a two-pronged approach: support their allies, but also protect themselves.
All right. Thank you so much, Mandy, for that comprehensive update on that big story. We will keep coming back to you. So big development there. Russian diplomats are being expelled from the US and the Europe, and Russia has vowed a stronger response to this, what they are calling it as a provocative move.